Manchester United have received an official 25 million euros bid from Napoli for Scott McTominay. Jadon Sancho moves one step closer with Juventus now in advanced talks over an obligation to buy with a season-long loan. And what's going on with Manuel Ugarte? These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's show. But before we get into that, please do me one small favour. Smash a like on today's video. And if this is your first time watching, subscribe to the channel. We're just about to hit 40,000 subscribers. So if you are watching for the first time today, I'd really appreciate it if you do subscribe. Completely free content and everyone is welcome. Right, let's get straight on into it then. I'm going to start the show off today by asking you a question. I always like to try and make my shows interactive. I like to see how you, the Manchester United fan base, are feeling. And the question I've got for you today is this. What's your score prediction for Manchester United versus Brighton? Kickoff is in 4 hours. Get in the comment section right now. Let me know your score prediction. I will give you mine. I think Man United are going to win 2-1. But I want to know what you think as well. So get in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. In relation to players that are available, there's no injuries, which is great. Erik ten Hag did a press conference that came out in the early hours of this morning, and he confirmed that there's been no more injuries. So the only people who will be missing will be Lindelof, obviously Højlund, Lenny Yoro, pretty much the people who missed the game against Fulham a week ago. Jadon Sancho is a question mark. Erik ten Hag said again that players only will get into the starting 11 or the bench if they deserve it. I don't think we'll see Jadon Sancho today. I'm 90% that Jadon Sancho is going to leave. We'll talk about him a little bit more in a minute, but I would be absolutely stunned if Jadon Sancho is available for the game today. So in relation to players unavailable, Lindelof won't be there, Højlund won't be there, Luke Shaw won't be there, Malacia won't be there, Lenny Yoro won't be there, and I don't think Jadon Sancho will be there either. So it'll be exactly the same squad that we had for the game last week. Does De Ligt start? That's the big question. It's really hard for me to say. Oh, I don't know. Should De Ligt start? Oh, I don't know. It's a really hard one. Harry Maguire was, in my opinion, one of the best players on the pitch against Fulham. Him, Casemiro and Mazraoui were our best players, without a shadow of a doubt. I feel like it would be a bit harsh to drop him, but at the same time, you have just spent nearly £40 million on De Ligt. Like, why? You know, if you've bought him, then clearly you want to start him. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm a little bit torn on that one. Obviously, I think in the long run, De Ligt's going to be the starting centre-back. But for this particular game, I mean, obviously, if you play De Ligt, you can play a higher line. Brighton are going to play a higher line. Obviously, Harry Maguire's not really very press-resistant. If you try and press Harry Maguire, he just kicks the ball out, whereas De Ligt is press-resistant, Martinez is press-resistant, Mazraoui is, and Dalot is. So our whole defence and our goalkeeper would then be press-resistant, whereas at the moment, if you have Maguire in that defence, he is the weakness. You know, when a team presses Maguire, he panics. He either kicks it long, kicks it out of play, or loses the ball, whereas any of those other defenders I mentioned, if someone presses them, they can safely get the ball away, or they can pass it, or they can do something with it. So, yeah, it's a hard one because obviously if De Ligt starts this game and he has a stinker, then people are going to be like, why did Harry Maguire not play? He was the man of the match against Fulham. There's no right or wrong answer to this one, I don't think. And obviously everybody in the comments now will probably have a differing opinion. Do I think Harry Maguire is the future of Manchester United? No, De Ligt is. But for this one particular game, Harry Maguire, in my opinion, had one of his best games for Manchester United last week. And I'm not saying that makes him world class or anything. You know, don't over-egg the pudding here. I'm just saying that based on what we've seen from Harry Maguire in the past, last week against Fulham was one of his better performances. There was a couple of moments where he saved us from conceding a goal, you know. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. It'll be interesting to see how Erik ten Hag lines up. I think the actual starting 11 will be very, very similar, to be honest. I think it'll be Onana in goal, Dalot, Martinez, and then I think it'll be either Maguire or De Ligt. I don't know who. 50-50 I am. And then I think it'll be Mazraoui at right back, Mainu, Casemiro. I think the attacking four will be the same. I think it'll be Rashford, Mount, Bruno and Diallo. And Ahmad, sorry. Because I think that attacking line actually worked quite well. We didn't create that many opportunities, but pressing-wise, we actually were able to press Fulham last week. And if we press Brighton and they're playing a high line, we might be able to, you know, catch them when they're not expecting it. Because most teams don't expect Manchester United to press. Like last weekend when we were pressing, I was impressed because usually we don't do it. And I think that is probably where our weakness has been. But yeah, I don't know. I'll do a poll in a minute on who you think is going to start. I'll do it after this first poll's run through. Yeah, well, it's really hard. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no like right or wrong answer. Some people want De Ligt, some people want Maguire. But yeah, but get your score predictions in. I will do a little poll in a minute where I will ask you who you think is going to start. Someone's saying, isn't Maguire injured? No, nobody's injured. Everybody who's available last week is available this week. So we've got no injuries, which is great. Not a single injury. The only players who are injured are the same people who were injured before. The people I ran through, the Malacias, the Luke Shaws, the Hoylands, etc. So yeah, that's fine. But let's move on from that. Let's talk about Scott McTominay. Let's jump straight on into it. And there is a poll running on the live show. So obviously, if you want to get involved in that, you can. And the question is this: should Manchester United accept Napoli's 25 million euro bid for McTominay? So let's bring you that news story right now. This came up pretty late last night. I was asleep. It came up from Fabrizio. It came up from Damasio. It came out from multiple different people. And the headline is that apparently Napoli have submitted a 25 million euros bid to Manchester United for Scott McTominay. Apparently, Manchester United are still asking for 30 million euros. I just think at this stage of the window, right, McTominay's got 1 year left on his contract. Let him go. 25 million, maybe get some add-ons as well. Maybe 5-10 million in add-ons. You can't really complain about that. I know people will be like, oh, Emile Smith-Rowe moved for this much, or Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall moved for this much. But, like, are we not going to sell a player just because Emile Smith-Rowe moved for 5 million more than what we've been offered? That's just... That just doesn't make sense to me, in my opinion. Like, there's a week left, not even a week left of the window. The window closes on Friday. There's literally 6 days left of the window. And Napoli clearly want Scott McTominay. Scott McTominay's got to go there. He's got to do his medical. He's got to be convinced about everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to happen overnight. So even if they accept the bid today, he might not be doing his medical till like Tuesday, Wednesday. So if they're, risking it until the very, very end of the window, then what do we do with the money? Like, how do we reinvest that money? And I think that, I guess they'd reinvest it in Manuel Ugarte, but yeah, I don't know. I just think that they need to accept this bid, to be honest. I think 25 million euros, like, obviously, yeah, maybe he's worth a little bit more, but he's 27. I think he turns 28 in a couple of months. 1 year left on his deal. We either sell him now. This is the two options Manchester United have. Option one, they sell him now and they get 25 million euros straight profit in the bank. That's option one. Option two, they say, no, Napoli, we're not going to do that. We want 30 million. Give us 30 million or we won't sell him. And then in 12 months, he probably leaves for free or you have to give him a new contract. So for me, option A, sell him and get 25 million is win-win. Option B is best case scenario. Well, there isn't a best case scenario. He either leaves for free next year or you give him a new contract. And I don't want either of those things to happen. I don't want him to have a new contract and I don't want him to leave for free because then we've just lost 25 million, So yeah, for me personally, like, we need to just accept this bid. We need to just move him on. So yeah, let's hope that Manchester United see some sense. Let's hope that maybe they meet in the middle. Maybe they meet somewhere between 25 and 30 million euros. Maybe they meet at 27.5 plus add-ons. James says we cannot sell Scott until we have his replacement. If we do, the Ugarte deal is done. I'm not sure what you mean there, mate. Manchester United are going to sign Manuel Ugarte. It's so obvious. So obvious. Somebody says we can't sell McTominay for 25 million euros. That's insane when we got offered 25 million pounds from Fulham. The thing is though, mate, right? We got offered 25 million pounds from Fulham, but McTominay didn't want to go to Fulham and Manchester United weren't willing to kick him out. So what you're saying makes sense, but it is also flawed because Manchester United have said that they're not going to make McTominay leave. They're going to ask him if he wants to go. They'll present the offer to him, and if he says yes, I want to go to Napoli, he'll go. So even if we agree a deal with Napoli, right, like we did with Fulham, there is the potential that McTominay might turn around and say, you know what, I want to stay in England. I don't want to go to Italy. I don't want to go to Napoli. So that's the reality of it. And I understand your point that obviously Fulham offered us more money, but McTominay didn't want to go to Fulham, and Manchester United weren't willing to throw him out of the club. They gave him the option and he decided he wanted to stay. So what you're saying makes sense in principle, but it's obviously flawed because we're not doing a Chelsea where we're making him train away from the team and we're throwing him out. We're being respectful towards him and we're saying if you want to stay, you can stay. Whether that's right or wrong is a whole nother conversation, but it's not as simple as saying, oh, Fulham offered us more, we can't sell him for less. Because at the end of the day, right, if he wants to go to Napoli and they offer us 25 million euros and Fulham offer us 30 million euros, but he doesn't want to go there, and we're not willing to force him to leave, then he's not going to go there, is he? So that's why that situation, happened the way it did. From what we've seen, apparently McTominay wants to move to Napoli. Apparently he's spoken to Antonio Conte. Has been quite widely reported by the Italian media. So there is an understanding or a belief that McTominay to Napoli is of genuine interest to the player. And as I said, Manchester United aren't willing to throw him out. They're not going to do that. Should they? I personally think no. I don't like how Chelsea's run as a football club. I don't like how... I'm not a Chelsea fan, but looking at it from a football fan's perspective, the way they've treated Conor Gallagher, the way they treated people like Trevor Chalobah, even Mason Mount, all of these players that have come through their youth academy, and they've just literally made them train on their own. Even Raheem Sterling, right? I'm not saying I like Raheem Sterling. I think he's quite a good footballer. He's not amazing, right? They've just literally stripped him of his shirt number and said, you've got to go. You're not allowed to train with us anymore. That's crazy. It's very, very cutthroat. And I think it seems like a great thing to do. But I actually think in the long run, I think mentality-wise, I don't think that's the way to run a football club, because all of these players are going to be constantly looking over their shoulder thinking, oh, next summer, are they just going to throw me out? Like, I don't know. I just don't think it's how top football clubs should be run. It's not how you should treat your players that have come through your youth academy, like Conor Gallagher, et cetera, et cetera. Like, so I think that's why Manchester United are trying to be a bit more classy about it, trying to be a bit more respectful to him. So, Alex says we could extend his contract by an optional year and then sell him next summer. But then, yeah, as you say, though, then you've got to give McTominay half the fee. So that is the third option. There is the option to give McTominay a 1-year extension. But if we do that, just like we did with Wan-Bissaka, he would then be entitled to half of any fee if we sell him. So if we give him the 1-year extension and then we sell him next summer, and we sell him for £30 million next summer, say, we'd only get 15 million because we have to give him half. So now is the time to sell McTominay. Get the money, clear his wages. That has to make sense. There's loads of people in the chat saying that Ahmad's lost his mother, he might not play. Yeah, I did see that. Obviously, sending my thoughts and condolences to Ahmad. I don't know whether he's going to play or not. I don't know. I'm not sure whether he was in the travelling squad. There are pictures. I'll have a look in a minute. But yeah, obviously, sending my thoughts to Ahmad. Ed says, you were saying yesterday that Sancho should eat in the parking lot on his own, and now you're calling Chelsea crazy for changing a shirt number. Sancho should eat in the car park on his own because he literally refused to play, called out the manager on social media, has disrespected the fan base, disrespected the club. Go on his Instagram, he's literally not got a single picture of him in a Manchester United shirt. Every picture's him in a Dortmund shirt. Like, it's a completely different situation, right? Enzo Maresca's gone into Chelsea. Sterling was a starting player for them last season, one of their star players, right? He's come in and just taken his shirt number off him and said, you're leaving. I don't want you in my training sessions. You're not going to be in the squad. Goodbye. That's not the same. That's not comparable to what happened with Jadon Sancho. Go and have a look at some of the things that Enzo Maresca said over the last week. Go and have a look at some of the comments he's made about people like Mudryk and etc. Like, all Eric Ten Hag said to Jadon Sancho in that press conference was that he hadn't trained that hard this week, so he wasn't in the squad. That's all he said. Like, go and have a read of some of the things that the Chelsea manager's been saying about his players, and you don't see any of them calling him out on social media. Like, it's a very, very different situation, and I think it's easy to try and, compare these things. But Manchester United do try and treat their players well, I think, generally, from what I can see. Whereas Chelsea aren't. That's the point I'm making. They're not treating their players well. Whether that's right or wrong is obviously a whole conversation for another day. Carl says, Carl's come in with a super chat. Thank you for your super chat, mate. Carl says, if McTominay doesn't leave, I will just start watching netball instead. I mean, that could be good, mate. Maybe give it a try. Or maybe even basketball. Basketball's quite good, isn't it? But to be fair, if McTominay stays, he's barely going to play. The thing with me, right, I'm not that bothered if McTominay stays because I know he's not going to be a starting player. But my frustration is that we have the opportunity here to sell somebody for 100% profit to get one of our biggest ever transfer fees. And I know that sounds crazy and people are like, 25 million is nothing. Kieran Dewsbury-Hall went to blah, blah, blah from Leicester for £30 million. Like it's nothing. Go and have a look at our biggest ever transfer fees. And you'll honestly be shocked. You'll be absolutely stunned at our record departures. McTominay going for 25 million euros would be honestly one of the biggest departures we've ever had, right? So at the moment, our biggest departure, McTominay would go in at number 7 in all time, in our whole history. Our 7th bit, well, in recent history. Since, I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? And it shows how bad we are at selling. And to think that he would be 100% profit as well. 25 million euros or 30 million with add-ons would go in at 6th place in our highest ever transfer. In between Mkhitaryan and Dan James. That's why I think like you have to do it. We have an opportunity here to actually make some money. We have an opportunity here to actually sort out our PSR and financial fair play situation. And I think for that reason, you have to sell him. We've got over 900 people watching the show live now, which is amazing. We've only got 100 likes though. So if everyone could do me a little favor and hit the like button, that'd be really, really appreciated. Let's go for 1,000 likes on today's video. So if everyone can go and do that right now, that'd be really, really appreciated. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. We're literally less than 1,000 away from 40k now. And remember, once we hit 40k, I'll be giving out 2 brand new Manchester United shirts as a giveaway. So go and do that right now if you haven't already. Yeah, we're getting closer and closer. What are people saying in the chat? Let's have a look. Tony saying it's not his biological mother, it's his stepmother. Ahmad's biological mother is still alive. Yeah, I saw him post about that, but he said just because someone isn't your biological mother doesn't mean that they're not perceived as your mother. That's a bit of a like, do you know what I mean? I don't really get what people's points are here. Amad Diallo's come out saying that somebody who he sees as his mother, who is the mother to his brother and his sister, but not his mother, so his stepmother, that he sees as his mother, has died. Like, does it matter whether it's his biological mother, you know? Like, why are we, you know, investigating it with a tooth comb, being like, oh, it's not his biological mother? That doesn't mean anything. Just because someone's blood doesn't mean that, you know, I don't really understand what your point is, you know? He's obviously upset. He's lost somebody important to him, somebody who he sees as a mother. Like, just because it's not his biological mother doesn't mean that, you know? Yeah, it's a bit of a weird thing to be saying, but fair play to you. What else have we got? Johnny says there is a difference between stepmom and brother's mum in their culture. I don't know. I don't know enough about his culture to know, but he's lost someone important to him and he's clearly upset. So I don't... Does it matter who they are? He's obviously very unhappy. So just because it's not his blood mother doesn't mean that he doesn't see it as his mother, you know? Anyway, let's move on from that. I don't really know why people are trying to disregard that Ahmad's upset just because it's not his biological mother. It's a pretty weird thing to be, you know, angle to be on a Saturday morning, but fair enough. Lumen says, Kieran, would you take a point against Brighton? Yeah, I would, to be fair. We just can't lose this game. I think we're going to win, but I would be happy with a point. I would. Because Brighton are a good team. They beat Everton 3-0. They beat Everton 3-0, didn't they, in the first game of the season. I saw something earlier, right? Brighton have spent 250 million euros this summer. Absolutely crazy. Obviously, we know where they've got the money from because of Caicedo, McAllister, etc., etc. But yeah, they've just confirmed Ferdi Kadioglu and another player as well. And their total spend for this summer is now 250 million euros. And to put that into context, right? Manchester United so far this summer have spent about 130 million euros. So Brighton have nearly spent double the amount of money of Manchester United have. So people are like, oh, we've got to beat Brighton. It's an easy game. It's only Brighton. Brighton have been run so well, done so well on the transfer market that they are now turning themselves into a top club where in my opinion, right, if you spend 250 million in one transfer window, that's crazy. That's mad money. That's like, if I was Brighton, I'd be like, right, we need to finish in the top 6. You don't spend 250 million euros to then want to finish in the bottom half. They've got a good manager. They've got a good squad already. I think Brighton are going to do really well this season. I reckon they'll probably get top 6, to be honest. They've signed some quality players and they've already got a pretty solid team when you look at all the options that they have. You know, they've got experience. They've got people like Mitoma, Evan Ferguson, Joao Pedro, even like older people like Danny Welbeck, who obviously bring the experience. They got that Minter guy from Newcastle. They've obviously just signed Ferdi Kadioglu. Like, they've got some really, really good players. So it's not going to be an easy game. I would take a point. I want to win, but I would take a point, to be honest. Like, my expectations for this season are still win the Europa League. And I reckon if we can get top 4, that would be a massive achievement. But I reckon realistically, we could finish anywhere between 1st and 6th is realistic for me personally. I'm not saying we will finish 1st, by the way. I'm just saying that, like, I'm not 100% convinced that we're going to win the league. Finish in the top 4. You know, I think it's going to be so competitive. When teams like Brighton can spend 250 million euros in one window, like, you can't just be like, oh, it's Brighton, we need to beat them. They've spent 250 million. They've spent double the amount of money we have. And they arguably had a better team than we had in the first place. I would probably argue. I mean, if you look through the Brighton squad, right? You look at the team that played against Everton last weekend, right? So this was before they signed most of these players that they've just signed. You look through their team. The goalkeeper, Steele, I'd probably say is on par with Onana. Let's start from the front. So Welbeck, we started the game with Bruno as a false 9, didn't we? Like, their attacking line, Mitoma, Joao Pedro, Minter, and obviously Evan Ferguson. I mean, that's solid. That's really, really solid. They've got Milner in midfield, which I don't think is that convincing, but that Whiffer guy is pretty good. And they've got obviously Dunk, who's decent. They've got Van Heck, who's decent. They've got a really, really good team. It's not going to be an easy game. I'm just having a look if they've got any injuries, though. I can see. Let's have a look, actually, if they've got any injuries. Brighton, injuries. Obviously, Evan Ferguson's injured, I think. Let's see what injuries they've got. Let's have a look. Okay, so Brighton's injuries. They've got Solly Marsh is out, and Cisso's out. He's quality. Bart Verbergen is out. Igor Julia is out. So those 4 players are definitely out. And then Lamptey, Evan Ferguson, and Estupinan are out. So they're missing quite a few good players, to be fair. The predicted lineup is Steele, Veltman, Van Heck, Dunk, Hinchelwood, Milner, Whiffer, Minter, Pedro, Mitoma, Welbeck. I mean, it's still decent. And then in relation to Manchester United, it's Luke Shaw's out, Malacia's out, Lenny Yoro's out, Højlund's out, and Lindelof's out. And then I think Jadon Sancho won't play either. I think it's going to be a difficult game. It's not going to be a walk in the park, you know? Just because they're Brighton, like, that means nothing these days. And I think that's where we have this arrogance as a fan base, where we think we should be winning every single game, you know? And I get it. Like, when it was Sir Alex Ferguson, that was our expectation, win every single game, right? But football's changed. Teams like Brighton have better recruitment teams than us. Maybe not anymore. Maybe Dan Ashworth and that team's going to be good in the future. But Brighton's recruitment over the last decade has been levels above ours, you know? And the fact that they've put themselves in a position where they can spend 250 million euros in one window without any problems with financial fair play, like, that just shows how well they've been run. So, yeah, McMillan says we have to start Mount because of Brighton's high line. His pressing is absolutely vital against that setup of Brighton. Mate, I 100% agree. And controversially, I would say that Xerxes shouldn't start this game. I think that we have to start the same attacking line as we did against Fulham, because I think we actually pressed in that game. And it was the first time in, I don't even know how long, that I've seen us press like that. So, yeah, I would have Bruno as the false 9. I would have, the same starting 11 that we had the other day, to be honest, because I think you do that, and then later on in the game you can bring on people like Garnacho, you can bring on people like Xerxes when the game's a little bit more stretched, bring them in when everyone's a bit more tired, and then, yeah, they can work their magic. So, yeah, I think we have to go in and press. But yeah, in short, I would take a point. I think Brighton are a good team. I think they're very well run. Obviously, it's an away game. I don't know. The weather's absolutely miserable here. I don't know what the weather's like in Brighton. I feel like weather does always play a bit of a part on it. It's absolutely... There's a rainfall warning in Brighton, so it's going to be a very, very wet game today. Very slippery pitch. Yeah, it's literally raining, heavy rain all morning in Brighton. So it's going to be like an absolutely soaking pitch. It's going to be a difficult match. And I know people are like, oh, it's the weather. Like, the weather does make a difference, you know? The ball slides around more, whatever. It's not going to be an easy game. I think it could be a bit of a sloppy one, almost. Right, okay, let me have a little sip of my tea. I always forget my tea, so... Right, let's move on to... We've spoke about Sancho. Have we spoke about Sancho? No, we haven't spoke about Sancho. Okay, let's bring out the news on Jadon Sancho then. So this is coming out from Fabrizio Romano. He's saying that Juventus are now pushing to sign Jadon Sancho. They are in contact with his camp and Manchester United. He says currently the big salary of Jadon Sancho is the problem, but talks are ongoing. The situation remains open. That's positive to hear. I think for me, we spoke about Sancho so many times on this channel. He has to go. I hoped and I prayed that, you know, he'd come back to Manchester United and maybe he could turn over a new leaf, but it's clear to see that he hasn't. Apparently, after the Fulham game, he handed in a transfer request. That was what Laurie Whitwell reported yesterday from The Athletic. He said that he was unhappy that he wasn't in the squad and that he wants to leave the club effectively. Now, in relation to this salary issue, obviously it looks like Chiesa is going to leave. He's on big wages at Juventus. I just want him gone. I think the most likely option here is going to be a loan with an obligation to buy. £40 million is apparently the fee that Manchester United are looking for. I've got no problem with that. I think £40 million obligation to buy would be very, very fair. Maybe we help them towards his salary for this season, and then obviously after this season, he's not our problem. You know, maybe he's on 250k a week. Maybe we contribute, say, 50k a week to his salary for 12 months, just so to get the deal over the line. And then next summer they buy him for 40 million, and then effectively he's not our problem anymore. So yeah, that has to happen for me. It does. But whether it will or not, I don't know. I'm feeling confident about it. The fact that people like Fabrizio, etc., are all coming out with this story shows that there is actually some truth in it now. So yeah, obviously I'll keep you updated. I don't want to spend too much time talking about Jadon because I'm absolutely sick to death of talking about him. Let's move on to Manuel Ugarte then quickly, shall we? The thing is, right, with Manuel Ugarte, like, the news is just frustrating now, to be honest. How many times I've read closer than close or imminent or like... Every single news story that comes out about Manuel Ugarte is effectively just saying the same thing over and over again. And the general consensus is no one seems to know why it's taking so long. No one seems to know why it hasn't been confirmed yet. Maybe it's because they want McTominay gone first. Maybe it's because, you know, they can't agree on the payment plans. We don't know. But Fabrizio said 11 hours ago that Manchester United fans can relax. When it's done, I will let you know. And he also said that it's almost there. So it's just the same stuff over and over again. It's almost there, very close, closer than close, so close I can almost feel it. You know, you could literally, yeah, it's, as soon as we get, you know, the here we go, obviously we will go live. But at the moment, it's just the same. It's just the same news over and over again. And there's not really much, I can't spin it in any other way. I can't, you know, make it sound better than it is. The most important thing for me is that Manchester United have him in time for the game against Liverpool a week today. Like, we need to have this deal wrapped up by early next week. We need him in training, and we need him available, because you never know with Casemiro. Casemiro might put in a 10 out of 10 performance today, or he might have an absolute stinker. I think that Casemiro is that type of player now, where he's lost his consistency that he had when he was a Real Madrid player. And I think, you know, we need to make sure that we're fully equipped for that Liverpool game. Because imagine if we win today, right? If we win today, I'm saying we got to beat Liverpool next weekend. And then God knows what's going to happen with the rest of the season. If we lose today, the mood goes from up here to rock bottom again. Like, we're one loss away from some of the fan base going into an absolute meltdown. You know, some people in the fan base think that we should be winning the league or finishing top four 100%. And if we lose today against Brighton, the narrative will already switch. There'll be people turning on the manager. I'm not going to be doing that, but there will be people out there who are already waiting for, you know, Man United to lose against Brighton, and then they'll be out for him. So yeah, we need to get this Manuel Ugarte deal done very, very quickly. Otherwise, yeah, it's not going to be good. Let's see what else people are saying. Everyone's saying we're tired of being close. I know, mate. I know. Right. I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be doing a match reaction. So as soon as the game finishes at about 2 o'clock, roughly, around then, 2:15, I will do a match reaction. I'm not going to do a watch along today. But yeah, I'll be live as soon as the game finishes. So make sure you're with me for that. About 2:15 p.m, I'll be doing that. Have a great day, everybody. Not evening. Please make sure to smash a like before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all on the next one. Bye for now.